Hello, everyone. It's a new year, new me, new you, and it's a new episode. Episode 40 to be exact of Superannuated Starman. I'm your host, Sean Ryan, and as always, I'm joined by Chris Duerksen.
As always, how you doing, Cory?
You're messing up the order already. First show of the new year, and you're already botching it for the rest of us. Hi, Sean. This is Cory. I'm the third person on this show.
So you've heard their voices. We have Chris and Cory, my co-hosts, and I hope you guys had a great year. Chris, you're about to say something.
I like the new me, new you, new episode. That was slick.
Same brain damage from Chris.
Well, I hope everyone out there had a happy and safe new year. As we welcome in 2024, we're going to be covering Super Smash Brothers, a personal favorite of mine, and just an amazing game overall. But before we begin, a disclaimer. We'll be talking about Super Smash Brothers as a whole. That is the original, Melee, Brawl, 4, and Ultimate. So while it's not exactly an episode exclusively about the N64 release, we're just going to be kind of celebrating the entire franchise. With that said, stick around and enjoy this music, and when we get back, I'll be covering the history of Super Smash Bros. Super Smash Bros., often referred to as Smash 64, was developed by HAL Laboratory and published by Nintendo. Released in Japan on January 21st of 1999, April 26th in North America, and later in Europe on November 19th. It even saw a release on the Chinese IQ player on November 15th, 2005. Smash 64 actually started life as a game called Dragon King: The Fighting Game, being developed in 1998 by legendary game developer Masahiro Sakurai. He made a presentation to colleague Satoru Iwata, who would join him in development as a programmer. Sakurai knew that breaking into the fighting game space would be difficult with so many other well-established franchises, so he needed to make his game unique. Super Smash Bros., as it would later be called, is known for shaking up the fighting game formula. Instead of depleting an opponent's health bar, every time you damage an opponent, they receive percentage points. As these points increase, your enemies are likely to go flying when hit, especially with powerful moves, throwing them off screen or over a ledge and costing them a life. Smash 64 also incorporated a much more simplistic approach to character movesets, with every character having different actions but utilizing the same button inputs. This was a drastic change to some of the other contemporary fighting games, notably Tekken, which had some of the most articulate button inputs of the time. But not only that, you could have up to 4 fighters on screen simultaneously. The alpha build of their game, Dragon King: The Fighting Game, shows a single stage with a blurry photo of Yamanashi, Japan, where the headquarters for HAL Laboratories is located. They use this photo as the stage background, which is really interesting because the image used is of the, and I'm going to butcher this, Ryuocho neighborhood. And maybe not so coincidentally, Ryuocho, when translated, means Dragon King. In this build, all the fighters are thin, male, humanoid shapes that greatly resemble the Captain Falcon fighting polygon model. Knowing that Nintendo were unlikely to give him permission to use their characters, he continued to develop the game in secret, and it wasn't until he had a prototype of the game featuring Mario, Donkey Kong, Fox, and Samus as playable characters that he pitched his idea to use Nintendo's IP. 23 years after the release of Smash 64, Sakurai demonstrated gameplay from Dragon King, showcasing the differences between his alpha build and the final release of Super Smash Bros. Smash 64 features 12 playable characters, 8 of which are immediately available to the player, with an additional 4 that are unlockable through various requirements. Those characters being Jigglypuff, Captain Falcon, Luigi, and Ness. Several other characters were initially planned for the N64 release, such as Marth, King Dedede, Bowser, and Mewtwo, all of which would be added to later games in the franchise.
Really? They were planning those ones that early?
That early.
Wow.
I mean, Bowser's a pretty safe addition.
Well, right. I was thinking more like
Yeah.
like
I mean,
see
Marth is
Mewtwo or
kinda-
Marth. Yeah.
Like, I can understand Mewtwo before Marth because, like, Pokemon was a way bigger franchise in '99 than Fire Emblem, I think.
Well,
Well,
Fire
plus
Emblem is a favorite of Sakurai's.
mostly
ahead,
thinking about the play style of those characters in particular, because Marth in the later games is kind of, I don't know. Everybody in the 64 is kind of slow, chunky, and even like Link with a sword is kind of slow swinging stuff. Like, I don't know, having Marth and
Well,
Mewtwo
Captain
in
Falcon
there.
is really fast.
Oh
but
yeah, that's true. That's true. Anyways, we can talk about that later. Sorry.
But I absolutely understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, it would have really just changed up the landscape a lot. Assuming they would have been like how they ended up in later games. They might have
That's a
been
good
slowed
point.
down and
Yeah, the limitations of the console could have drastically affected how they wanted these characters to be. So that's a really
Yeah.
good point. And this isn't the first time that a developer had come up with an idea, but felt that using the popularity of an existing Nintendo IP would boost their sales. Even when they were using their own characters, Super Mario Kart started as a generic kart racer using placeholder graphics that were later swapped out with characters from the Mario universe.
You know, I was just remembering that when you were talking about the Dragon version or whatever, it reminded me like, you know, they made the game and then they slapped the Nintendo faces on it. That's pretty cool.
And there was a comment that Cory made that kind of got some wheels turning in my head when he was talking about Mewtwo over some of the other characters. When you, or at least when I think about like Smash Brothers, yeah, it's a Nintendo franchise, or it's a game about Nintendo franchises, but really Pokemon kind of sets itself apart from that. Even
Yeah,
though,
it's its
yes,
own beast.
it's absolutely Nintendo, but it's certainly not in the same universe as Donkey Kong,
And
Mario,
Mario, yeah.
Link, all these other characters.
Yeah,
Not to
there
say
there
that
is like the weird, like Nintendo official, like first party publishing, and then Pokemon being like a Game Freak thing. Even though now like Nintendo does own a share of the Pokemon franchise, the fact that like it originally started as its own like third party thing, there is that weird disconnect where like Donkey Kong and Mario have been in, the actual same like canon games together and things of that nature.
and I would almost consider Game Freak to be like a second party. If you have Nintendo being first party and then other developers being third party, they're so synonymous with Nintendo that they're just basically the same company at this point. But it does feel a little weird. But based on popularity, I can really, really understand why they chose to include Pokemon in something like Smash Brothers. That's not to say that the other Nintendo franchises couldn't have done it on their own, but I think it really, really
Free
boosted
win.
that fact. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You're going to draw in another audience that may not have in the first place. But to promote the game, Nintendo of America staged an event called Slamfest 99 on April 24th, 1999, featuring costume performers dressed as characters from the game that would wrestle and fight in front of a live audience. Stations were made available for attendees to preview the game, which would be released only 2 days later. The event was live streamed on the internet via Real Player, if you remember that.
Mm-mm.
And you don't remember Real Player?
Oh, yeah, yeah, kind of like
It was
the
like a video player.
yeah. Okay, yeah.
Exactly. Way back in the day. So it was available through that and was available for download from the event's official webpage. However, no video footage is known to currently exist, which is so unfortunate that that's lost. But North American audiences were also treated to a live action commercial showing Pikachu, Yoshi, Mario, and Donkey Kong holding hands and frolicking through a field before Mario kicks his leg out and
Oh
trips
my
Yoshi.
gosh, I remember that.
Yeah, I'm going to post this on the Discord for everyone to see. And this video was later translated and aired in Germany and France to promote the European release of the game. The game itself was met with critical and commercial success, selling 1.97 million copies in Japan and 2.93 million copies in the United States as of 2008. The game was praised for its quote unquote original take on the fighting genre and its simplistic control scheme, but there were some critics that reviewed the game rather harshly. Most notably would be EP Daily, formerly known as the Electronic Playground, who gave it a 1 out of 10 and said, quote, even though it appears to be a culmination of many fantastic Nintendo games, it simply isn't even close to resembling anything remotely good. Don't be brainwashed, kids. This is not cool. It's a ripoff to be taken at face value.
You
A
know what that
ripoff
is?
of what?
Sean, do you know what that is? That's we had to pay for our own copy of the game. That's what that review is.
It must be because they went on to say that when talking about the control scheme and button inputs, they doubled down and say, quote, Nintendo says this convenient system allows you to switch easily between characters without having to get the hang of basic moves all over again. That's a load of crap. It's Nintendo's clever way of covering up for the sloth at HAL Laboratories, the developers who appear to be too lazy to add any kind of depth to an already desperately shallow game. And if anyone's interested, I'll post the link to the review in Discord. It's no longer available on their website, but you can still view it via the web.archive.org.
Gotta
Whoever
go in the
wrote that's
Wayback
been eating
Machine.
humble pie ever since.
Oh, for sure. Because this game has gone on to be one of the most popular fighting game franchises of all time.
And one of the most cloned franchises, and like,
You know, that's a
yeah.
really good point, Chris. And I didn't even bring that up whatsoever about the PlayStation Battle Royal All Stars. I can't remember the full name for it, but yeah, I didn't even think of that game while doing all the research for this.
Oh, there's tons. I mean, everybody's heard me mention that Gibbs is into Smash Brothers, but now there's Brawlhalla, and there's some Nickelodeon version of this, and there's a sequel to the Nickelodeon one coming out
Oh, I remember the
sometime
Nickelodeon version. That came out a while ago, didn't it?
a
Is
few
it
years ago.
is it called Brawl Stars?
Yes, Nickelodeon Brawl Stars. Yes.
The fact that it gets cloned over and over again shows that Masahiro Sakurai was definitely onto something.
Speaking of quick clones, then I'll let you get back to it. Have any of you guys seen the Overwatch version of Smash Brothers?
No.
No.
That's pretty cool. They opened up like the mod shop and let people like make mods of Overwatch, and somebody came up with a Smash Brothers way of playing Overwatch with Overwatch characters and everything in the Smash style, and it, the cameras were the same way and the stages were the same way and everything. That's pretty cool.
I might have to look into it, but if you were looking for more information on the thought process behind Super Smash Bros., check out Sakurai's YouTube channel named Masahiro Sakurai on Creating Games. He has a short 8.5 minute long video all about the game, and he shares some amazing history behind it that I didn't want to include here because the video is worth the watch. So, guys, that's all I have, unless you have something else.
Nah, man, that's pretty good intro for history.
All right, so let's take a break. And when we come back, we're going to share some of our memories of the Super Smash Bros. Franchise. All right, welcome back, everyone. We're going to discuss our childhood memories of the game and of the series overall. But, Chris, I'd like you to kick this segment off because I'm positive that you and I literally share some of the exact same memories because we played this game together on my birthday on the eve of Y2K, December 31st, 1999.
So yeah, Sean's birthday, 1999, December 31st. And that was my very first time playing Smash Brothers. I don't know how long did you have it at that point, Sean?
I'd only had it for 1 or 2 months, despite it being out
Only
for a while.
you
Yeah, it
had it
came
long
out
enough that
April.
you were whipping my butt all night long, and we played until like easily like 4 in the morning or something like that. We were staying up for Y2K. We're kind of. You remember John Thompson? Like his plan was that like as soon as if all the power went out and stuff, he wanted to go loot champagne. Like
Yeah, and in my memories of this game, it heavily involved John because at this time period, Chris and I were freshmen in high school, and we mentioned John Thompson, and he is very much a gamer. Like when you think of the word gamer, that's John, and Chris could probably agree or
oh
elaborate,
yeah.
but he dominated that group with Captain Falcon, who is also my main for Smash.
Yeah, and then yeah, and of course you did that too and screw both you guys.
Even though I think Kirby is objectively the best character in the game, Captain Falcon is definitely my man. Kind of stepping on your toes, Chris. What else do you want to talk about when you think about your memories of this game?
So the first night playing with you and going over there and instantly being completely hooked on it. Every time I see Blastoids anywhere from Pokemon, I always every single time, not kidding, not exaggerating at all, I always think of Sylvan going, "Boys' toys," because
Yeah,
yeah,
because it
because it,
sounds so weird coming out of
yes,
it because it's just low quality audio.
and yeah, the background like I can't remember like he didn't come out of Pokeball, but he was like a didn't come out
Yeah,
like on the one of the stages or something like that.
yeah. So the Pokemon level is set in Saffron City on the N64 stage, and periodically random Pokeballs will not Pokeballs, but random Pokemon will come out. One of them is Blastoise. There's Voltorb, I think, the one that looks like a
Voltorb,
Pokeball that
yep,
explodes.
Poly, the Polygon one,
Yeah, I
uh,
I couldn't tell you what. Oh, Chansey, I think,
Chansey,
is one.
yep. But also that night, we were also trying to figure out was it Magikarp or Goldeen was one of the ones that in the Pokeballs,
I think Goldeen
and we were
because it just kind of flops around.
right. And I swear I remember we were trying to figure out like, oh, if you get a Goldeen on Kirby's stage next to the pond, and it'll evolve into something else, and it doesn't.
Yeah,
But
we had all sorts of nonsense theories
theories
about
and
things,
yeah,
but there is a little bit of interesting trivia when it comes to the Pokemon in this game. So after unlocking every character, there is a 1 in 151 chance that Mew will appear when you throw a Pokeball. and he'll appear on screen briefly before flying away, not causing any damage whatsoever.
Oh, I remember that.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he just
It's
pops out
never
and he's
happened
just
to
like a
me.
meh.
Oh,
Huh.
that's so interesting that's happened to you. I've never seen it despite having
I
thrown, I don't
I
know,
played a lot.
thousands.
Yeah, I played a lot of
So,
Smash.
well, yeah, one of my favorite game mode in that, is, and we pretty much picked up on this on the first night. And keep in mind, in 1999, neither one of us gave two craps about Pokemon, but our favorite game mode, or at least mine was,
Setting
is
item only to
yes,
Pokemon.
oh, Pokeball battles only, and just as many Pokeballs as you can. My
Some of
main,
them were so overpowered, like
oh, definitely,
Snorlax,
Didn't Blastoise just like shoot like a big
his water
thing? Like, yeah,
cannons.
water
but he
cannon,
just
yeah,
like hydro pumped everyone off the screen, didn't he?
yes,
Like, it was
Yeah.
yes.
such a good way to keep people from like just hanging on the edge.
And Snorlax was the stage clear where it just come down, just basically wipe out anything in the middle of the screen. Yep.
Yep. Onyx will fly straight up
Oh
and
yeah, and
somehow
rain
rocks
rocks.
come tumbling down after flying the clouds. Those Pokemon were way too OP.
And
Yeah, Pokeballs
that's
were deadly, man.
that's still my favorite way to play. If you guys didn't notice from when we were playing earlier this week, but and also right out of the gate, Pikachu became my main. Like I remember trying Link and Samus, and like first started playing when I first started playing and getting into it. I was trying Link and Samus, but Pikachu was always my main. And because I loved it so much at your house, my little brother had a 64, and I convinced him to get Smash Brothers. So then that way I was able to play Smash Brothers every time I visited my dad. And that game was just completely, as far as like my memories of it go, that changed fighting games completely for me. At the time I was used to like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. Sean and I were really into Quake at the time playing PC games, but I didn't play fighting games on PC at all. So coming into Smash Brothers, and plus having that cartoony, nice, bright, I don't know, cheerful Nintendo cast, and then just smashing the crap out of each other, it was just so much fun. And you mentioned that commercial, yeah, of them like hand in hand, like tiptoeing through the daisies, or like skipping through the flower fields and then start beating the crap out of each other. Like that's what that game was. Like this game changed couch co-op for me because it just became the most intense fighting game. Like they just instantly sucked you in. The controls were great. I love the control scheme, like what the what reviewer was talking about. It made it great because you could literally pick any character and still have some idea of what to do. And that control scheme has carried through every single version of Smash Brothers all the way up to the modern one. Yeah, I've got nothing but happy memories and good things to say about this game. So
Corey, what about you?
So Smash Bros for us was a staple in the household. Like I said, we were talking about, this came out in '99. By the new millennium, at least one of us owned it. There were days where this is probably all that we played. Like, this was such a popular title. I think this was really the go-to multiplayer title up until probably the release of Halo, honestly. Like this, it was like this, Halo, Call of Duty, I think were like the three big ones in that kind of time frame that really had any time on the television. And as far as Smash Bros goes, this was something where, we would all get together, and the rounds are so short that it's just this wonderful battle royale fighting game, and you can just switch off constantly. It's got 4-player capability, but we often had 5 or 6 people in the room, so this was just something that we could all get together on. And there was a lot of like hyping things up where you had your last 2 people alive, and we were all kind of taking side bets and getting freaked out, and there were a lot of upsets in this game. And one of the things that we kind of been talking about is the control scheme. And I think this game, being this battle royale type of style game, the control scheme's amazing because it is just a duplicate for every player. You don't have to, we were talking about Street Fighter back, where you had the different kind of styles where you had the Z patterns that you'd have to learn, or the
Oh
quarter
yeah, and
circle forward, and
each
every
one had their
character,
own code you had to
yeah,
learn.
everyone had their own ups and downs and things of that nature. And then we get to Smash Bros where it's like, okay, well, you have
Formulaic
your, yeah,
across the board. Yeah.
you have your C stick smash options, or you can alternatively hold like forward and A or up and A, and then you had your B, which is your special, and then you had like shielding and jumping. And every character is so uniquely designed that even though the attacks are all the same, the actual character output's completely different. The up B for Falcon is, shooting off on a rocket, versus Mario, it's kind of like his little jumping uppercut where he punches coins out of the sky. And some characters don't even have like an up B where they actually get launched into the air. It does something completely different. So every character is just really well designed, and they pull from the franchises a lot. Like Samus has her cannon, and Pikachu's got his thunderbolt. Ness has his PK attacks and his baseball bat. Like, everyone is just really, really created in this unique way, where even though the controls are completely identical, the characters themselves are all way different play styles. And I think that's what really made just amazing replayability for us as a group.
And
I
also,
want
I'll. Oh, sorry. You go ahead.
I just want to interject really quick to talk about Ness. In the Japanese version of the game, which came out a few months before the North American release, he was the like de facto player because he was so overpowered. They
Ness
had to
is
nerf
still
him.
overpowered.
Yes, but he's been nerfed since the Japanese initial release.
I believe that Ness is probably the single strongest character throughout the franchise, honestly. Um,
But it takes quite a bit of practice to get
Yeah,
good.
I mean, it takes a little bit of practice, but like his PK Thunder lets you like launch yourself back onto the platform. The PK Fire does a burn attack. Like his baseball bat is an immensely powerful launch smash mechanic. Like it's
Well,
he's just a great character.
on that alone, like I was always under the impression that the home run bat was the most powerful weapon in the game, and
And
he's
it's
got it
just, yeah,
built into his
it's
kit.
built into his kit. Yeah, like
Yeah,
he's an immensely strong character. I think if I had to probably rank top 3, it would probably be like it'd probably be Ness, Kirby, and I would probably say, like, in terms of cheese, it would just be Pikachu for like top 3 strongest
and speed.
characters. Yeah, like Pikachu's very cheap because he's got a lot of reach with his thunder attacks, and he's got very quick input timings, and he can cross a lot of distance very fast as well.
And
Like,
his upbeat, his third
yeah,
jump is a teleport.
yeah, it's a teleport that damages when it lands. Like, Pikachu's just a very cheap character, which I think says a lot about Chris choosing it as a main.
Ooh, getting
Well,
called out.
but I mean, no, like we played this. I think just it was hours and hours, like days of playtime. There were frequently weekends where we would be up until the sun would come up. I mean, Smash Bros was really just an amazing game. And as far as that reviewer that was complaining about this, you can't really compare this to games like Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter. Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter are like traditional fighting games where they're one on one, you have move sets, you have these like really flushed out characters, and it's a lot of, timing and combos and kind of reading the other player. Smash Bros is it's a fixed camera, it's single camera, so there's no split screen, which is one of the best things about it.
Yes,
And it's 4-player functionality, and it since it is a battle royale, you're not having to worry about kind of reading the other player until you get in like a heads up type of situation. A lot of it is like opportunistic play and using the environment because all the levels are very well designed and have their own little tricks and pitfalls.
and items and
Yeah, and items. A lot of it is just kind of more cerebral, like just picking your moments type of battle. where in a traditional fighting game, you're really like in a boxing match. This is more of just like a demolition derby in comparison. So I think that reviewer was just really blowing smoke, giving this a really bad, shake when it's not really the same gameplay at all.
To build off that, I think one of
Uh,
the things that are really upsetting from what he said is that yes, all the controls are the same, but that doesn't equate to strategy being the same for each of those moves.
we're
Yeah,
just gonna talk
I
shit
would.
about this reviewer for the
Yeah,
entire
well, I
time.
mean, because well, we're
Well,
just we're just talking about the game though. Because I mean, I would love to see someone get good with a character like Mario, and then try to play the same way, switching to someone like Captain Falcon or Pikachu. Like it's not the same game at all. Mario doesn't have a charge attack like Captain Falcon. You don't have to wait 3 seconds for him to go Falcon punch. Like there's a way different game there.
One of my favorite things to do as a playing this when it first came out was like I played single player all the time, but anytime you got bored of the game, you could just play a different character and it's totally different.
Yeah, it was one of the best things. And I mean, we had people that when we were growing up and we had, all the guys would get together and play this. If someone was sticking to a character too long and really beating us, like I had a friend who played Link pretty religiously, and he was very, very good with Link. But when you matched him up against Samus, he would just get knocked out because Samus could just range him down with the charge B attack.
Is anybody
So
gonna mention the way you say Samus? I've always said Samus.
Samus, whatever. But it's just one of those things where like people have different type matchups, and if something's not working, you can just switch characters and go at it from a different angle, and it becomes a completely different game. And I think it's just a really fun, complex system using a very simplistic control scheme.
So one thing you mentioned about your buddy sticking with Link too long, and one thing I judge myself for, and I also judge other people for, is that if they play the same character for more than like 3 rounds in a row, that like I give them a dirty look, or I'll give myself a dirty look. Like that's you're cheesing it at that point.
No, I don't see it that way. I mean, there are a lot of times where we would just play with our best characters. Like back in, middle school and high school or whatever, I was very heavily on Team Fox, and I still think Fox is a great character, and I
boo!
play him a lot. But now, like I roll a lot more with Kirby. Like Metal Knight was really cheesy back in the days of Brawl. Like it's just it's much, especially in the earlier game, you only had 12 options, right? So I really wouldn't begrudge someone in, the 90s for rolling with one or two characters, because like that's kind of who you got good with, and it was fun to just kind of flex on people for a while. And then, the best part was knocking someone, flat on their ass when they're playing with their best character, and finally knocking them out of the game and being like, "Yeah, you're not so tough now, are you?"
We've talked a lot about the N64 version, but I'd also kind of like to bring up some of the other games. Like, I bought my GameCube black, by the way. I'm not a fan of the purple one, despite that being my favorite color. But I bought it in the summer of when I bought
I
it.
had a silver one.
Oh, that's a good one too. But I bought it in the summer of 2005, and I bought it with Smash Brothers Melee, and I hated it.
Sean,
I did not like it.
excuse me,
What?
Sean, you did not say
No.
it correctly. That's probably why you didn't like it. You have to go melee.
I don't I know it's a community favorite, but it just wasn't for me. I didn't like okay, it really boils down to they changed Captain Falcon too much,
Yes.
and it was a little upsetting for me. But later on, with the newer systems, I bought the Wii version, which I there's a lot that I like about the game, but that game introduced tripping, if you remember that.
Yes, I hated it. I really got into it melee because my buddy who's we had band practice at his house and everything, his brother had melee, and I spent hours playing that game, like, and it was so intense. Like my eyes would be watering because I couldn't. Like that game was so intense that I couldn't take the
Wow.
time to blink. Like we were really into it, and this dude was so good, and I loved Melee. But then, yeah, I had it for the Wii. That was like the biggest reason I even wanted a Wii was just to get Smash Brothers for it. And then they introduced tripping, and it was awful. They
So
the levels
I
were great, the characters
think
were great.
Brawl cleaned up a lot of the kind of inconsistencies of Melee.
Yeah,
I read somewhere that Sakurai introduced tripping to kind of force the community to take a step back from treating the game so seriously, and that your character could do something like trip at any given time. So don't take the game so seriously, just play and have fun, which I think is
yes,
a great message, but
but it ruined
probably
tournament play.
yeah, it's probably not it probably wasn't the right move, but it was the right message. But I also bought Smash Brothers 4, which is called that because it's for the 3DS and for Wii U, which Chris, you also own the 3DS version. What are your
Hmm.
thoughts on that?
Love it. It the cell shading kind of animation threw me for a second, but at the end of the day, it's Smash, and the new game, like the single player. What do you? I can't even remember. I haven't played it a whole lot. I beat it a handful of times, but what's the campaign mode called? I can't even remember. It's not
Is
just
it just
classic,
story or
I can't remember what it's called for that version in particular.
but it is like this cool little super long level with tons of mobs coming on screen and just nice little fight your way through kind of. All I'm trying to say is that it added extra game modes that were fun and added um more collectibles and more unlockables, and the roster was great, and the fact that it was mobile, it was great. I've gotten absolutely no complaints about it. Gibbs still plays that one now, like, and I'll occasionally check it out too. It's a lot of fun.
And of course, there's the latest iteration, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate for the Switch. And I'm going to save my thoughts really for the end. But overall, Smash Brothers has been something that I have really looked forward to on each and every new Nintendo console. And I don't know how big you guys are into the games themselves, but the pre-release hype that Sakurai generated is absolutely insane. Those fighter introduction videos that he
oh
released
yeah,
are
for
just
the
amazing.
latest one that there was big hype for the latest game.
Yeah, so much hype. And I really want him to do what makes him happy as a developer and creator, but I can't lie and say I won't be disappointed if we don't see a successor to this. But I don't know where they really go from here.
Honestly, it's gonna have to be when the new hardware comes out. They're just gonna have to make a new version when we have a new console.
Yeah, and I'm
Or
not.
there might be a deluxe version on the next console where it's the same game,
I
just
hope
ported
not, just
over.
because that's what this one was. Because this one came out for the Wii U, and then this is just a port to the Switch.
No, no.
Yeah, this
Isn't
Smash
like
Brothers.
the single player a lot different on this one?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
it's an
didn't have a Wii U,
entirely
but
new. Yeah, it's an entirely
are you
new single player.
sure? Or am I thinking?
100%.
Or am I thinking of Mario Kart?
You
Mario
might be
Kart was a
thinking of
port.
Mario Kart because
Okay.
Mario Kart 8 came out on the Wii U and is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. There was a ton of Wii U games got ported over, but
Yeah.
the Smash Brothers is certainly not a port. It's a brand new
Yeah,
game.
they put a
So wait.
lot of work into this one.
So wait. So what Smash Brothers was on the Wii U?
4.
Yeah, the
Oh,
one you
right,
were
right.
just
Oh,
talking
okay.
about
Right,
with
right.
being able to
Okay.
walk
So
around with
so
it.
so
Yeah,
it's the
there was
same one as the 3DS. Okay. All right.
correct. Well, mostly because there were some stages that were different because some of them had handheld exclusive stages on the 3DS version, being a handheld console, and some of the stages on the Wii U were console exclusive stages. I couldn't tell you what they were specifically. I just know that little tidbit from just kind of knowing about Smash Brothers as a whole. But guys, I think we really, really did a great job about talking about our memories. Do you want to take a quick break and when we come back, discuss playing it today?
Sure.
Unfortunately, Nintendo hasn't decided to bless us peasants with Smash Bros. 64 through the Nintendo Switch Online N64 emulator. I hope they eventually do, but as the life of the system seems to be drawing to a close, I doubt they ever will. But we've been playing Ultimate online together, and it's been a blast. So, Corey, why don't you start us off with your thoughts of playing the game today and your thoughts on any of the other series if you played them recently?
Chris plays a Pikachu main.
What's the matter with that? What is the matter? Say one thing that's the matter with that.
He
No,
kind of talked about why that's a problem.
Well, it's not
really,
like it's not like he's
really
got a home
like.
run bat or anything.
He's just
He's
very
nimble.
okay. Let me talk about the fact that Pikachu's upward, like Pikachu's Thunderbolt, has like a flippin' 8 mile vertical. That's what
It
I
does
want to talk
not.
about.
They have
Yes, it
nerfed it.
does.
It
Kirby
used
can
to.
hit the ceiling and he can still hit you with his
It
Thunderbolt.
it used to, and then
It
over
still does.
the current iteration only has like
Current
a 10
iteration
foot.
is still absurd. The reach and speed and just the the way he's designed is just an offensive character. But yeah, um no, we were playing this and it was a lot of fun, and I went back and I played through the campaign on this one, and the campaign is still great. I still have a lot of fun with that. Um one of the things I think is both tedious and actually kind of nice about this version, if that can be a thing simultaneously, is the fact that so many of the characters are locked, because I would say it's probably half or more of the roster is locked behind like playing through the campaign.
Are you talking
There's
about the current version?
yeah, like
Actually, there is a slow. You can do it through the campaign or just minutes played.
okay, well regardless, like there's still a lot of characters that are just locked. And I think it's nice because it gives you something to look forward to. But on the
Yeah.
flip side, like my multiplayer experience, I had very few people to choose from in comparison. So it does get a little tedious, but then again, like if you're into Smash Bros, like it gives you really a lot to like kind of push towards, and
Oh, Gibbs and
gives
I
you like,
unlocked.
yeah,
We
gives
unlocked
you like a
everything
real
within a
like
month.
sense of accomplishment. And yeah, but like it was like a month of solid play, you know what I mean?
Oh no,
Like
no. I mean, not
uh,
solid, but
whatever. The point
I
is,
did look up the flow chart to see how to unlock
yeah,
things.
exactly. Like you ran out of your way to figure it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's a very dense title. You know, for the price, there's a lot going on. There's excessive replayability. The fact that the Switch has online mode, you know, really lends to the spirit of the game, because I think four-player couch co-op has kind of vanished, and the fact that we have online play with this title really, you know, gives us that kind of ability to come back and play with friends again, and that's really nice. Um I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with this game. I do think the campaign mode where they make you choose like your little followers and give you
The
the,
spirits,
yeah, give you the weird little rock paper like scissors mechanic they have. I think that's unnecessary, but it's
which
just
but
something they crammed in there to give you something to do.
yeah, it's just something extra. They still have the classic mode, so you can
Yeah,
still. Yeah.
But it's as a gameplay element, like they just kind of did that, and they were like, "Hey, try this out." And I don't know, I don't find it particularly fascinating, but it's functional, so I really have nothing bad to say about it.
And they do weekly events that give you spirits and stuff, so that way it adds like an
Yeah,
RPG aspect of the game.
yeah, and I mean, the one thing that's nice about Nintendo games in general, especially Smash Bros. and like Pikachu and all that kind of stuff that they do with Pokemon, the developers really do give you a lot of bang for your buck. They are constantly like releasing little patches and giving a lot of extra content for players, and it's really nice. So modern day playthrough, a lot of fun. I did quickly go back and play a GameStop online version of the original series, and I don't think it holds up. I mean, it's still a functional game, but with as many iterations as we had, I don't think it's worth going back in time for that one.
I've got some thoughts. I'll hold off until I get there, but I don't know if I completely agree with you. But I did have a question for you. Did you purchase any of the DLC that came out of those 2 fighter packs that they
I
released
have
throughout the
I
life
have
of?
not in this iteration, no.
So one of the interesting things that they did, in addition to all of the standalone fighters, there were 3 characters in particular, the Mii fighters. You have the Mii, I believe, called Mii Fighter, Mii Gunner, Mii Swordsman. I could be wrong on
Brawler,
that.
Gunner, Brawler, Gunner, and um.
The Me Wizards.
But those
Oh my
characters
gosh,
themselves,
Gibbs would
they
know.
offered a lot of skins for them, and several of them offered not only the skins so you can change the character, but they offered maybe a level or music in addition to it, like the Cuphead or the Undertale. I think Undertale's one of them. Shantae, I believe, is another. They did so much and gave you, like you said, so much value in this game that it's just so impressive. And I went out and bought every one of the DLC characters, and I think that they are all wonderful choices that I can't really fault the choices that they made. I know not everybody was happy. Somebody wanted their obscure fighter to get in. I know I wanted Gino from Super Mario RPG. Never happened, but maybe someday. Maybe that's a wish in the future.
Well, and I think that kind of further lends to what we're talking about with new iterations of the title. Like, people are going to get their time to shine. Waluigi will be here someday.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Someday. Someday. Chris, what about you? What are some of your thoughts replaying Super Smash Brothers today?
Still love playing the game. It's Gibson's favorite game right now, the current version. I will play any of them. I'm still just as happy firing up the 64 version. I wish I had the Melee version on GameCube. My Wii version got lost because that was something that I was still playing it well up until it got lost. But like Chris and Sabrina would come over and we would on nice winter mornings like we'd be playing Smash Brothers before I had to go into work and stuff like that and order pizza and that was a lot of fun. And I don't have a single bad thing to say about this game in any regard on any version of it, except for the tripping on the Wii. That's the only thing I didn't like. This is one of my favorite game series. Ultimate is so much fun on the Switch. You get the replayability is just through the roof on it. And that's also just for me personally. This is one of those games for me. I can just turn my brain off and just play it, and like, oh, there goes an hour. Like,
You know what else happens, Chris?
no, what?
Burp, 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 burp,
Bum,
burp,
bum,
burp,
bum,
burp,
bum,
burp,
bum, bum,
burp.
bum.
So it was so much fun playing online with you guys. And before we talked about this, I haven't played this game in forever. But despite being rusty, it was so easy to get back into the game because of the lack of complicated button input move sets. The formula is just so good, and that's what prompted me to use some other methods to go back and explore the first game, which I do own, by the way. It's all in storage, but I don't have access to it. But if I'm being completely honest, I definitely want to see this game re-released on NSO, but the single player campaign is pretty shallow. But I
Yeah.
but I think the multiplayer aspect of the original game is still amazing today, even if it doesn't have all the bells and whistles that the current iterations do. I think that it does stand on its own in that regard. The single player campaign is just pretty bad, honestly. But Ultimate, I think, corrected a lot of those mistakes that we saw throughout the series. It's the best I feel, and I'm probably the happiest I've been with the single player campaign since the Subspace Emissary adventure mode that was on Brawl. Playing the other day with you guys like we did, I liked picking the random character option because with so many characters, there are a bunch that I would absolutely never try on my own, like the Wii Fit trainer. Never
Yeah.
gonna pick that one myself,
And then a
but
fire hydrant got dropped on you.
yeah, but that character was randomly given to me, and now I have that experience. By the way, Wii Fit Trainer sucks, but as with anyone or anything on this show, it's just an opinion. If you think they're amazing, hey, good on you. But I'm kind of at a loss for words about what to say about replaying this game, or rather the series, because I also picked up my 3DS and played around with that version too, but the screen was just so small that
Yes.
I
Yep.
didn't know. I don't know how I could enjoy it when I did play it back in the day. But on that note, the 3DS version is an amazing technical feat. The fact that they managed to put all that on a handheld is phenomenal.
You know what the issue was, Sean?
I had to get
Our
good.
no, our eyesight was better 15 years ago.
Oh, I thought you were gonna make a get good joke, but yeah, you're absolutely right. And Chris, you were talking about some of the design choices that they made with that. On the 3DS specifically, Sakurai decided to put a very thick black border around every single one of the
I
characters.
think that just made it easier to see.
Yeah, that was the point, is to make it easier to see the character based off of where they are in the stage and everything. Which I don't know if the 3DS version was necessarily a great idea, but it was very successful, so who knows?
Well, it's just one more thing to just kind of increase that, what's the word? Like just the presence and reach more people with it, cuz not everybody owned, a Wii, but I think a lot of people had 3DSs as well. So, it's just another thing to kind of get to more people.
That's a good point, especially when you look at the sales numbers between the 3DS, which was an absolute powerhouse, and the Wii U, which was not, in the nicest way to put it. But guys, I think that's all I have. Do you guys want to take a break and come back with our final thoughts?
Oh, I was gonna ask, as far as current stuff goes, do you guys look up tier lists?
No,
Okay.
because
I was
we
just
know that
curious.
Pikachu is garbage and he'll be on that list. So,
Steve from Minecraft is number one.
yeah, what's up with that?
Yeah. Have
What's
you
up
guys
with
e-
that
have you guys
character?
ever played in any of the any have you guys ever gone to a tournament or competed in Smash Bros or anything like that?
No, I've seen them before, like in person, but I've never like competed in one.
I did a very local tournament for the N64 version in the early 2000s, like
Oh, that
2003
must have been fun.
or something like
There
that.
used to there used to be a game store by my house. I think it was called like Monsters Den or something, and they used to do like weekend tournaments for games. It was pretty cool.
Chris that we've had on the show before, Sabrina's husband, told me about he went to a release party for I believe Melee on the GameCube, and they had a tournament going while everybody was waiting for the midnight release, and he picked Yoshi and was just trolling people by swallowing them and egging them off the stage the entire time, and
Oh,
did pretty
I
well.
Another
hate that
excellent
so
mechanic.
much. So much. I mean, it's within the confines of the game, so it's fair, but
There's a lot of
God.
things that are within the confines of the game that can drive us insane.
Hmm.
I believe Link is one of the war criminals that could just like crouch by the edge and stab you repeatedly so you could never get back up again.
Nah,
Yeah,
he's not bad.
there are some design choices that probably should have been looked into a little more, a little QA, a little more QA. would have maybe
It
benefited
was it
there.
was either Link or Kid Link where you could like you could just sit on the edge and camp, and anyone that was trying to get back up again, you could just like stab out with A and jab them before like you could. Their attack was so fast that like you could just keep clipping them before anyone could jump over you, and it was just like an impossible thing, and you could just get edged off, and it was terrible for the people.
Well, with that being said, let's take our last break. We'll come back with our final thoughts.
Sounds great. So my final thoughts on the game are that I'm glad to see this game is still going so strong. It is still completely amazing. Well, we talked about all the clones it's made, and that's for good reason because this game, like, I was never good for fighting games where you had to memorize combos and all that stuff, and this game took it all away. Anybody can pick up this game and play it. It's a lot of fun. The character selection is amazing, especially in the newest versions. But even back from 64, you had a bit of everything. Every version
You
of this
you,
game
you had
is
12 characters. It was still
yeah,
like a solid roster.
exactly. This every game, on every platform is worth playing, in my opinion. The 64 game still holds up so good. I have a lot of nostalgic attachment to that. So just hearing it fire up and everything, I love everything about this game. This game is probably, I don't know, at least a 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 for me in across the boards. Like, I don't have any bad thing to say about this game at all.
You know what, Chris? I want to interject really quick because there's something that we all forgot to talk about that we really have to hit up here. And that's the fact that the final boss is the Master
Oh yeah,
Hand.
I
Master
was just
Hand.
thinking about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So at the very beginning of the game on the N64 version, you see a disembodied hand kind of going around a child's room and picking up these Nintendo IP characters and placing them
And
all and then eventually
like action
snapping its
figures.
fingers. Yeah, kind of like
Yes.
action figures, and
It
then
was
snapping
totally
its
Toy
fingers
Story.
and bringing them to life, just like Toy Story. And so it kind of led this narrative that the entire game, you are Master Hand and you're culminating the game by fighting yourself, your hand with these other action figures that you've been using to fight each other. I thought that was such a neat
Then it
way.
gets real weird when two hands show up and you're wondering who's controlling what.
Yeah, so in the later games, you have Master Hand and Crazy Hand, I think it's called.
Yes.
And with even some other weirder bosses as the series goes on. But yeah, we all forgot about Master Hand. But Chris, was there anything else you wanted to add to your final thoughts before Corey takes over?
No, just if you've never played it, crawl out from under a rock and play this game. It's seriously, this game is amazing.
I mean, I love Smash Bros. I think it's a great title. It's a great series. I I'm in the minority here because I don't think there's any need to go back and play the original game. I don't think it holds up as well as the newer titles do. If it was the only thing available, it's still a perfectly functional game. I have no problems with it. It's just that everything is a little jankier. There's a little more problems with input delay. There is just, less quality overall. And I think the original title on its own if I'm judging it, just based on the fact that it's one game at the time it came out, it's an easy, 10 out of 10. It's a great game. But now that we have a franchise, it's nothing that I need to really consider anymore. It's old. It's had its time.
Now let me
But
ask you a question.
yes.
If we were having a hangout, a barbecue, get together, whatever, family, and somebody busted out the 64 and said, "Hey, who wants to play Smash Brothers with me?" Would you say yes?
Yeah, because that's fun. But if you said, "Hey, I've got, the equipment here to play either the new one or the old one," I'd say let's just play the new one because it's got a lot more characters, a lot more levels. It looks better. Like there's nothing wrong with the
Oh,
new
right.
version, right? But if you're just like, yeah, I was digging around in my attic, you want to play like Smash? It's like, yeah, I do, because Smash Bros is still Smash Bros and it's a lot of fun. But
And
like,
still worth playing.
but there's no reason for me to be like chasing Nintendo to put it on the eShop because they
Oh,
are
right,
pushing the new
yeah.
one. Like the fact that it's not available to us kind of sucks because like we've kind of talked about at length like the fact that the gaming industry more or less just hides our heritage behind a paywall and putting things in the vault.
Our
But
heritage.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's what it
Yeah,
is. It's
I mean,
like,
it kind
these
of
are the
is,
things
yeah.
we grew up with, and it's like the
Yeah.
fact that they just go, no, you can't have access to this anymore. Tough titty, basically. Like, well, fine, I don't want it anymore now, anyways. Screw you. But the new games are great. They're a lot of fun. They play really well, and they're just a joyful experience. Everything is bright and colorful, and everything is just really well designed, and the characters all feel very different. This game has had 4 or 5 iterations now, and I don't think I could make a comparison to any two characters. I think Mario and Luigi, or like Mario and Dr. Mario or whatever, are like the closest in actual like being a clone of each other, and still they have different attacks.
Oh, they're
It's
not
like,
clones at all.
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, but in terms of like sprite, the polygon and everything, like
Hmm.
they're the closest being like the same character model with probably the
I
same
would,
jump heights and everything.
I
But
would say,
they're still different characters.
what about Link and Young Link?
I mean, Link and Toon Link are the same sets, I think, but they play differently because there's
Yeah,
height differences. Like, I think Toon Link had like a stronger bow attack that shot further, I believe, and I think his spin had like less reach. It's the kind of the same play style, but like there's just those differences where it really made a difference in the way you were playing the game.
it really
But
does. Yeah.
I think that they did a really good job in making everything feel like a unique character. And when you put Link against Toon Link or Young Link or whatever, it's not a mirror match. Like it's still completely different sets of people still.
Well,
So
hey,
I
on
think
that
they
note,
did a good job.
Sean, I got a quick question for you because you might know better. What is the difference between Samus and Dark Samus? Because those two kind of do seem like a mirror match.
I don't know, and I was literally just thinking about not only Samus and Dark Samus, but
Or Zero Suit as well.
I was thinking about Pit
No, Zero Suit is
and
totally different.
yeah, Zero Suit is very unique in comparison, but I was thinking about Pit and I think Dark Pit it might be called.
Yeah,
They're
and
they're kind of close to being clones here, but I think
and
for the most part, Corey's thoughts are very sound.
I mean,
totally.
like, and I don't really think about like Pit and Dark Pit and Samus and Dark Samus being the same character. But like, I don't even that doesn't even register to me because for the longest time you couldn't even play those. So I mean, like, there are exceptions to the rule, I'm sure, but for 99% of the character base, I think it is just a very well thought out, separated thing.
I totally agree. And for me, the series overall has been consistently amazing. Even if I wasn't necessarily a huge fan of each game, they're still great games, masterfully crafted, and you can see just how much Sakurai really pours into each one of these games. The Super Smash Bros. Series is one that has definitely left its legacy upon gaming, I think, And it's going to be difficult for Sakurai to surpass this game with over 80 playable characters. The amount of options that you as a player have are just insane. The tagline, everyone is here, cannot be more accurate. If you can, I recommend you go out and pick this game up and find some friends that want to play. And if you
Find some
want to play,
strangers, like get the
yeah.
online play and just go nuts,
No,
man.
don't go online. You will
No,
get
like if you got no one to play, just get on there and get wrecked
yeah,
and just have a good time. Like,
you
yeah,
will
Well,
get wrecked.
you're gonna get beat, but just go on there and just experience it and have fun.
well, if you can't find someone to play, hit us up on our Discord and we can arrange a
Yeah, for
time to
sure.
do some like
Yeah, like
community
we've
play.
played with each other. Like we're down to play. It's fun. Come on in.
With that said, I think we're at the end of the show. And like I said, hit us up on Discord, like us on Twitter, subscribe to YouTube, do all the stuff. And speaking of the YouTube channel, that only started because I had some friends that staunchly refused to download or use a podcast app, even if there was some other stuff on it, like, I don't know, music. Didn't matter. They didn't want to use it. So I threw them up on YouTube and kind of forget about it, really. But I appreciate each and every person that checks out those shows on there and that decides to subscribe because we've gotten a few subscribers over the last month or two, which it was really just for one or two people that I was just trying to help out. But thank you so much, everyone out there. And Chris and Cory, thank you guys so much for playing this with me. And Cory, before we go, you announced last time that you were doing a giveaway for a Switch Lite. Do you want to talk about that for a minute or two before we close out?
Yeah, it's not in the mail yet because we're finalizing some details, but we did pick a winner. Her name is Jen, and she did it for her 3 kids. So we're really excited to get that going, and hopefully we can get you some more details on when that's being shipped and get you a little bit more about like how they're enjoying it and everything else when we get it there.
So congratulations, Jen. Thank you so much for participating in our giveaway. Cory, thank you for being such a kind soul and doing something so awesome like that. That is
Indeed.
just
Well,
just
Amazing.
like I told you, I have enough disposable income. The holidays, if I want something, I've already bought it. So it's just hard to have like a Christmas wish list or whatever. So it's just fun to just do something for somebody.
well, it's
Perfect.
amazing and such a charitable act. With that, our next game is going to be Star Wars Dark Forces for the
Pipe, pipe,
PC.
pipe, pipe, pipe.
I'm very excited to play this game. One last time, Chris and Cory, thank you guys so much. Everyone out there, thank you. We've been Superannuated Starman.
Bye.